Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George, and you're listening to the weekly movie show with the boy Connor.
Hello.
Benny's out of town on a boat, drinking up, I'm sure. He likes his beer, that man. On boats. On
boats
water
in particular.
vessels.
Yeah.
In,
Cruises
what's the
even.
term? International waters.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the term.
Yes.
I don't know how I was meant to guess that. What's the term?
You know that term.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, for another week of movie antics. We have a solid week ahead. Not a ton of stories, but later on in the show, we do have our Watchmen episode 7 review and Mandalorian episode 4 review. So definitely stick around for those. That's going to be fun. We've also we just released our Irishman review, so definitely go check that out. Plus Knives Out. Reviewed that, but we've got a story here of Martin Scorsese, director of The Irishman, and some news that he's starting filming on his next project in the near future. We've got also some news about Ghostbusters 2020, a title confirmed. We'll be talking about it. I'm not sure about that one, man. I'm not sure about that one, but we'll talk about that later.
Seems weird that you mentioned it.
Before we get into all that stuff, let's catch up on what everyone's been watching. Connor, hit us with a list. I didn't watch anything, by the way. I didn't watch a thing other than
It's good to get that out
all
of the way.
those other movies. 3.5 hours of Irishman, Knives Out, Mandalorian, Watchmen. I didn't watch anything other than that.
Other than those 4 big
Thank you.
pieces
Come
of
on.
content.
This was 6 hours of my life this week.
Well, you made the mistake of not doing that last week, and you had to catch up on it all this week.
I guess.
Yeah, so you can blame yourself for that one. Anyways, what I did have some time to delve into was we had 2 new seasons of both Final Space and Man in the High Castle. And I checked out the beginnings of both of those series, and they were both very different experiences. I was a massive fan of Final Space when it first came out. And I loved that it
That's the Conan O'Brien cartoon on Netflix, right?
And it seemed to walk this line of being kind of absurd, but also hauntingly beautiful, and had a really cool soundtrack to it. I kind of fell in love with that first season, and it had me actually at certain points. It had me in stitches. Like I was watching this alone, laughing out loud.
Some good characters.
Yeah, which
I only watched 3 or 4 episodes, but I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, and look, I think that if a film or a TV show can make you laugh, especially when there's no one else around, then that's awesome. So coming to season 2, I watched I think the first 4 episodes, and I've got to say I wasn't thrilled, right? And I think part of the reason that I wasn't thrilled with it was that I feel like it tried to introduce too many characters too quickly.
Okay.
So the first episode, they take their time introducing you to 2 of the main characters, which is Goodspeed. Can't remember his first name, but Goodspeed and Hal, or the Hal equivalent.
So memorable, man.
Fuck, I can't remember all the
Goodspeed
names.
and, Hal, I think.
Yeah, the ship computer, whatever it is. Anyways, they took time adding in characters and
Episode
building
by
this.
episode.
Yeah, but as well as kind of just building how they would become a team, and that for me was a really great aspect of this show. And in season 2, it kind of felt like they just threw a bunch of characters in there, and they were all wacky in their own particular way, and aren't they funny? And look at all the gimmicks of how weird we can be. And it's there was a perfect balance in the last season. It just feels like you're trying to push it a little bit too far now. And
it's got to be bigger in the second one, bro.
Yeah, it's got to be wackier. It's got to be,
be more explosive.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like that's what they were going for in this.
Uh-huh.
There were still a couple of scenes that had me kind of in stitches, but not to the same level as the first season. So
Are
that was
you
a bit disappointing.
invested to continue on?
Tough, man. I watched the first I think 4 and then didn't touch it for the rest of the week, and
Wow.
instead decided to go and check out one that has been that was just another one that was just released, which was Man in the High Castle season 4,
The final season.
I believe this is the final season of Man in the High Castle. And interestingly enough, I found that this season, I think I'm up to episode 4 now, about halfway through. I find this season to potentially be one of the best that I've seen so far. At least from what I've seen.
How many episodes are you in?
3,
Nice.
I think. Oh, I'm halfway through the 4th.
11, right?
Something like that. Yeah. Close to.
Or 10. I think it's 10 actually.
Something. Yeah. We're splitting hairs now.
10.5.
10 or 11. You got to really just give me an answer here.
Come on, man.
Yeah, look, I have been really impressed with this. And I don't know whether it's just maybe I didn't notice it before or it I don't know what it was, but like I've just really dug the soundtrack in season 4. I think I don't know whether they've changed composers or what the deal is, but I am on fucking board. And yeah, so I think the cinematography and the soundtrack are two things that I feel like they've upped their game in this one.
And it gets more science fiction-y.
It's well and truly into the science fiction realm now. So season 1 is
dabbling, isn't it?
Dabbling, and it kind of spends a lot of time introducing you to this world. I think actually season 1 and season 2, a lot of it is introducing you to this world, giving you little hints as to what's happened.
For those who don't know, the world is like an alternate history where,
it's where the Axis
Nazis
powers
won.
Yeah. So America is basically split into the Reich on the East Coast. They've got the Pacific Empire, so the Japanese on the West Coast, and in the middle there's like this neutral zone,
dead zone. Yeah,
and it's really and they look at the the Japanese and the Germans are kind of in this uneasy truce with each other, and
which is extremely interesting.
That is fascinating
and very well handled.
And there's these people in the middle that's kind of caught, like the Americans that lost the war. How much of it have you seen?
Season 1.
So you've gone all the way through season 1. Yeah. Man, I would highly recommend.
So this is out, ready to go.
It's on Amazon Prime right now.
Amazon Prime. That's the linchpin here.
I have been.
Yeah, you would.
Impressed with Amazon Prime. I would. What do you mean?
I haven't done that in years.
Disney cuck.
That's right. Need to bring it out. Yeah, well, fuck, I'm a Disney cuck. What are you going to do about it?
I think we're both going to get rid of Disney Plus is what we're going to do about it.
I will. I'm a part-time Disney cuck.
Right up until I realized that they were stealing my money for nothing.
Once the episode 8 comes out, cancel, motherfucker.
Yeah. I'm sure that's what like Fox must, like that has to be what Fox experienced as soon as they got rid of Game of Thrones or once that was finished. Just everyone canceled.
Well, I mean, once Watchmen's done, I'm Foxtel. See you later.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. Like I was trying to work it out. That
there are a couple of things on there that tickle your fancy.
Yeah, and they're mostly HBO. So once Australia gets HBO now,
yeah, see you
Foxtel
later.
can fuck right off.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. What I'm actually waiting for is there's an Apple subscription that is going to bundle a bunch of these streaming services together.
That.
It won't have Netflix, because if you get this bundle, it's billed and accessed through Apple,
right?
Which means that
through the iTunes store,
Netflix wouldn't get a lot of the data on their
the
properties,
their content.
Yeah, so
they need to go direct to consumer.
Yeah, but I mean, they're big enough that they can make their own path.
To be honest, man, I was very surprised at how safe Netflix feels once Disney Plus came out. I was like, it really crystallized how different they are.
Yeah. And once I got Disney Plus, I was like, oh yeah, Netflix doesn't have to worry at all. Everyone was panicking. They're like,
and before I was like, they could be fucked here.
Yeah. And then it came out and Netflix was like, I fucking told you.
Yeah, I've seen 101 Dalmatians 87 times. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know,
where do I have to go from here?
You know, once George Jr. comes along or whatever, you know, Disney Plus is going to be great for families. I can totally see that.
Oh,
but
fuck, brilliant.
But right now, I can't see it.
Yeah.
So those two,
Weirdly enough,
you guys are gone.
My first thought was not like George Jr. as in like your son. It was like George Lucas Jr. I was like, what is he going to come along and I don't understand. And, oh, right. Yeah, that makes more sense.
A little human.
So, yeah, season 4 of Man in the High Castle and season 2 of Final
Space.
On that
again.
It's right up your alley.
Yeah.
It's good character.
I binge watched the whole of season 1 on the plane coming back from Europe, and I was locked in, dude.
I highly recommend that you grab Amazon Prime for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And you can download
it out
onto devices for certain episodes and that. Fucking just do that on the plane.
Yeah.
You'd be set.
Perfecto.
Yeah. So
I did actually watch something I remembered.
Uh-oh.
And I mentioned this on the Knives Out review. So definitely go check that out, guys. But I listened, funnily enough, on Disney Plus, a pretty cool piece of content, which was Rian Johnson's commentary of The Last Jedi. But I listened to it as a podcast. So I wasn't watching it. I just had my headphones on. And it was really, really, really great listening to his take. The funniest part of it, though, is that it's recorded before the movie came out. Yeah. And amongst it, he mentions a couple times, I wonder what people are going to think about this.
What was his thoughts on like Canto Bight? Like that's the part that I'd be most fascinated with. Like, what was the point of that?
A lot. You know what's so interesting is a lot of his ideas and the way he seems to think about things. It's sort of like, this is a neat idea. You know, he doesn't eat like Canto Bight. Like, what's the idea? Well, I wanted to do this kind of regal Star Wars thing that we'd never seen before, and but the actual like the core impetus and like a real solid justification. There's a few decisions along the way that you sort of like, well, I'm not quite seeing it end to end, and it's just like more of like this gut feeling that he gets, or like a creative force that's sort of, for lack of a better term.
That seems bizarre to me because his Knives Out film seems so calculated. Like it doesn't seem as though there's a wasted moment in that, for the service of like a cool scene. So, and the same thing with like Looper, right? So he doesn't strike me as that kind of person that would include something in a film just because he had a vision of doing a casino scene in Star Wars.
Well, he wanted to subvert the mission not going according to plan. That was a big part of it. The big part of it is that Finn and Poe. Finn and Rose's mission to Canto Bight doesn't go according to plan. And that's kind of like his whole thing is like he wanted to he says it a bunch of times. He wanted to play with expectation. And
he didn't quite
in terms of Canto Bight
on that one.
That is the by far the weakest part of that film. There's some fantastic stuff. I really love The Last Jedi. I will vouch that film.
So do I.
But the Canto Bight stuff and the furries.
Are those the horses?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember
I hate those
visibly cringing when they were running through
That's horrible.
The casino. It is so bad.
And they're like running along and there's like the opera lady, and it's painful. But nonetheless, I will go. I think what they did with Luke, I think that's what people complain the most about. Not Canto Bight.
A lot of people dislike their decisions on Luke. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, so do I.
I think that is the best stuff. The stuff that I hate is Canto Bight.
Yeah, same.
You got to get that shit out of there. That's a much tighter film. Yeah, there's 20 minutes in there that you could have just.
I quite like. You can go check out a review
from 2 years ago.
From 2 years ago, I'd be really interested to rewatch it and see how I feel about it.
I think we're planning early next year to do a retrospect
on the entire Skywalker series. Yeah,
yeah. Once Rise of Skywalker's come out and we've had a bit of time to digest it.
Yeah. Should we move on to the news?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So as you mentioned before, we have a little bit of news around Martin Scorsese's next project. He has just dropped the Irishman on Netflix. That's been in the pipe for 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's been in the pipe for a lot longer than that, but as like a serious project, like at least 2 or 3 years.
At least not in development hell, and it's on the way, and the production's greenlit. Couple of years.
So his next one will have Robert De Niro in it, alongside Leonardo DiCaprio, which seems like such a meeting of the minds almost type thing. Like,
Have they been in anything with Scorsese's catalog?
I don't think so.
Nothing's
I
coming
feel
to mind
like
right now.
surely they would have worked together at some point.
Let's have a look. But yeah,
At any
I
rate,
think that's tantalizing.
that's that. I mean, just in terms of having, he's kind of done the same thing he did with The Irishman, which he's got top talent together, and he's kind of said, hey, "What do you think?" But so the project's called Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's going to start filming in March 2020. So the movie centers around members of the Osage tribe in the United States that are murdered under mysterious circumstances in the 1920s, which sparks a major FBI investigation involving J. Edgar Hoover.
So does that mean DiCaprio's reprising the role?
No. He plays Tim something or other.
Because that was the Clint Eastwood film, J. Edgar.
Yeah.
Where 2013 or something thereabouts.
I saw that come up quite a few times in relation to this.
I think that'd be kind of cool. I didn't love that movie, but it's an interesting concept because they had that with Charles Manson in a couple things. Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Mindhunters on Netflix. I believe same actor played Charles Manson.
Yeah. No, he's playing someone else. It's based on a book, I think, by the same name. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm quite keen for this. We all had our different opinions on Irishman. I don't think any of us thought it was it ranged from good to very good, I think was the overall consensus.
I think everyone thought it was very good, but a slog. That's where the slog aspect of it was.
I will be very disappointed if this is another 3.5 hour film. I don't think I can do that again.
It'll be lengthy. It'll be 2.5.
I mean, of course it will be. Yeah, 2.5 is fine.
Yeah.
2.5 hours is a long film. I think you need a lot of justification behind you to have anything over 3 hours.
And I think for me, Irishman spoilers. If you haven't listened to our review,
not spoilers in terms of
not spoilers in terms of the movie. It's spoilers for the review. I think it justified it and it wove into the narrative the length of the film. But I agree with you. I want this one. It should be a little bit tighter and one time period, one set of events. Delve into that. I think that's sounds like that's what I loved about Shutter Island. Martin Scorsese. It's like, yes, there's flashbacks and whatnot, but we're seeing like a day or 2 days.
Yeah.
Time period. I would love to see something in sort of maybe like a couple weeks or a 3-month investigation or something, but like that. That would be really cool.
That's such a rewatchable film.
I was thinking about that list that we're going to do at some point, which is the best films
of the decade
of 2010 to 2019. And I'd say Shutter Island would be in there for me, man, because I love, I don't think maybe it's always completely successful, but the tone, the feel, the vibe, everything about it is so appealing to me. I've gone back to it so many times. I really love that film.
There's certain films that you walk out of and you kind of get a feeling of like, fuck, that was good. I remember having that feeling with Shutter Island. I also remember having that feeling with Inception.
Yeah. That was that year, 2010, man. Good
Were
year.
they both in the same year?
Yeah.
And both DiCaprio films.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, those two films blew me away. I remember just that was some of my favorite movie-going experiences.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, I'm keen. It's interesting. Scorsese's getting straight back in the hot seat. They would have finished post-production on Irishman, you'd say September, August. It's 6 months and then boom, straight back into it.
It's impressive, man. The man has a serious fucking work ethic.
I'm just looking at his filmography as well. It's way longer than I thought.
He has so many
1967, and so many projects. Like it's prolific to say the least.
It's shit. Last couple of weeks I've been trashing him a little bit because of his comments about Marvel and film, and not because of I want to defend Marvel, but more because I think it just shows a spectacular lack of thought on his part.
And it shows a generational divide, I feel.
That too, yeah. But I just think there's no consideration for what is happening to the cinema business.
Agreed.
But that aside, I feel like I haven't been giving him his due the last couple weeks, which, the man is he is an impressive filmmaker. and he's kind of solidified himself as one of the best, if not the best, of the last 30, 40 years. So, thought I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, it's a valid point, man.
Anything else you want to say about that one?
Pumped. More Scorsese.
Yeah.
More Scorsese is good.
Do we know who's distributing this one? Is this one straight to the cinema, or is it
Probably be
Netflix?
Warner Brothers.
Or?
He's got a pretty strong relationship with them, but who knows? That'd be. Let's have a quick look at that.
Let's have a quick look at it.
Because if it is Netflix, that would be cool, because that would be a continuing relationship.
They've been doing a lot of those kind of contracts where they're, sign on for 3 films or X amount of projects.
Okay, so here we are. We got the Slash Film article here. Come on. Who's
Nothing?
the production company? I'm not getting anything here, man.
I feel like surely that should be on there, right?
Yeah. Why is nothing popping out to me? No, I can't see.
That's just a damn shame.
I can't see. Maybe we'll find it later in the episode and we can come back to it.
Buying yourself some time.
Every good man should. Or woman.
Good catch there. It's a Imperative Entertainment, Paramount Pictures.
Paramount. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Not Netflix.
No, not Netflix. All right, next story is Disney. But it takes place in South Korea. So Disney has been hit with antitrust complaint in South Korea over Frozen 2. The complaint was that they are a monopoly, essentially. So the Frozen 2, I think the actual complaint is that it took up too much screen time, essentially. They said that it flooded the market, and it held something like 87% of screen time in the first weekend or something like that.
Wow.
Which essentially gives no time for anything else. Which makes it not a surprise that it's done so well. I think it's up to already $700 or $800 million worldwide.
I felt like the hype hasn't been there, but I'm clearly wrong.
Well, that's what I thought as well, because I thought this was going to be a flop from the relative kind of quietness of
the fact that I liked the trailers so much. I was thinking to myself, this is going to flop, man.
Did you like the trailer?
I thought it was solid. I think at least the environment looks beautiful.
Oh, I mean, if there's anything that you can pretty much guarantee from a Disney film or from a Disney animation film, is that it's going to look crisp.
And epic as well. Like Frozen 1, the trailers, it just didn't interest me any way, shape, or form. At least this one, it looks beautiful, and there's some interesting...
But you heard the hype about one. Like, you knew it was a big thing.
I mean, that song was everywhere.
Yeah. I just don't feel like I've... And I was reading some reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and it hasn't done as well critically as some of the other films that have come out recently, but obviously commercially it has gone gangbusters. So anyways, that's not what the story's about. The story's about Disney getting hit with this antitrust.
Is this a fine?
At the moment it's an accusation, right?
Okay.
So there's a civil rights group or a civil or some kind of group, I don't know, not-for-profit, that's gone and called them out on it.
Okay.
And the reason that this story kind of struck me was that we had just been talking about America overturning laws about how films are distributed and what kind of relationship you're allowed to have, and essentially avoiding this very issue. That's a little bit more about owning distribution as opposed to taking up screen time. It kind of does show that they'll just go for it if they can.
South Korea has done an amazing job, and is a very interesting case study about revitalizing a film industry. So I think from sort of 95, mid-90s and onward, they pumped a lot of money. The Korean government pumped a lot of money into their programs. And, you got some amazing directors. Probably top of the pile is Bong Joon-ho, who did Parasite earlier this year, Okja on Netflix. Memories of Murder was the film that put him on the map. I believe that was 1999. And the box office, within a 10-year period, the box office from international the ratio from international releases to Korean went from sort of 10-1 to completely flipped on its head.
Yeah.
And the number of films they were pumping out domestically sort of tripled or quadrupled or something. So, they're very protective and they're very aware, and they are making some of the best cinema coming out right now, in my opinion. All the Korean films that I see, I'm always extremely impressed with, and they seem to strike a chord with me. So it's interesting that there's something there that they're protective.
Yeah.
I wonder if this would be happening in the USA.
I wonder if this is kind of like a little bit of a domino push, where the thing that we often joke about, which is that Disney's monopoly, is starting to kind of come to fruition. And I think that Disney's going to have to be incredibly careful over the next decade, essentially, with how they put out content. And I still hold my initial criticism, although it's not quite as dire as before after having seen Disney Plus. But I still think that having that kind of streaming service that has that much content that is exclusive to one production company, for one outlet, from one distribution streaming service, that paints a very concerning picture for me on how we receive content in the future.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, look, I think that this is potentially the warning shot to Disney to kind of think about how it progresses.
I think you're right. And I think they have to make sure that they are growing, and they have to make sure they're growing width-wise, not just spamming cinemas. They have to just keep going into new industries, new verticals, keep innovating, because you're going to piss people off. And at some point, I wonder if there would ever be consumer backlash. Who knows? I mean, there is here already, thing, right?
More than likely,
but in the masses,
this will get swept under the rug, and Disney will continue on going as it does. I think it's just as likely that I'm completely wrong, that this isn't the warning shot that we think it is. This is just a day in the life of a Disney lawyer, and they take that complaint and they just squish it between their fingers and they fuck off now.
It's scary though.
And then the problem is I love some of the content that they're putting out.
I love a lot of it.
Yeah. We're longtime Marvel fans, longtime Star Wars fans. And so the kind of the prospect that they are potentially it seems weird to me. If you think about, like, Kevin Feige has always been this like guy that's obviously in it because he loves Marvel, right? You don't really think about him working within the cogs of like a evil machine type thing that Google seems to be, or not Google, sorry, that Disney seems to be. That Disney seems to be moving towards.
Yeah, it just becomes a juggernaut, and it becomes this whole other thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like it has its life of its own.
It's also like Bob Iger seems like a super nice guy.
Yeah, have you seen his masterclass thing? I'm like, I'd really like to watch that.
Yeah, so would I.
Just to see a window into this guy's mind.
And then I imagine he goes out back and he
like doing fucking all
takes off his mask
shit.
And it's fucking Red Skull or some shit.
Iger.
Yeah.
He's actually the Satan incarnate.
Fuck hell. All right, so we also have a little bit of news. Speaking of Bong Joon-ho, the 2019 Atlanta Film Critics Circle winners, Parasite took home Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. I would not have. I don't know that I've seen that coming, because the hype around Parasite seems to have been so. If you know, you know. But I reckon if I asked most people whether they've seen Parasite, they would have just been like, "What?"
Yeah, it's not at that same. Even Knives Out is getting more. It's in that sort of more indie, lower tier. It's not an end game. It's not in the general day-to-day conversations. It's as you said, if you know, you know. It's the film. The film lovers, somebody wanting to taste something a little bit different. But this, I mean, man, Parasite, I gotta say, it's definitely near the top of my top 10. of the year, and I can't wait to watch this film again. And it's deserving of the praise that it's getting.
Yeah. I've got to say, like, some of the people that were nominated and some of the awards that they were giving out, I've got to say, I was really impressed with the lineup. They've got Roger Deakins there. They've got Brad Pitt. They've got Laura Dern, Adam Driver. All people that I think deserve awards of some kind or another again and again and again. Like, I think those are really top talents. So it's good to see them getting recognized.
Just send them trophies.
Send them little plastic trophies.
Of themselves.
I think you've done a fantastic job. Yeah.
Here's a little Adam Driver for you.
And finally, we have, unless there's anything else you wanted to add to that.
No, nothing. Just go see Parasite.
Yeah.
Seriously, get that in. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't. No.
Get that in.
I know. Finally, we have a confirmed title for the new Ghostbusters films. It's Afterlife. We're also expecting a trailer to drop soon. I guess I'm more interested to see how you feel about Ghostbusters in general right now. Like, is this something that do you have any love of the franchise to begin with? And you know, on top of that, do you have a desire to see more Ghostbusters?
You know, people are going to hate me, but the most amount of Ghostbusters content I've ever seen in my life is the cartoon. You know, I've seen the original movie when I was a kid. I saw the second one I think I've seen the second one more than the first one. Yeah, that's mistake number one.
Did you see the
But I enjoyed it.
remake?
I loved it. No, I didn't. The Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. By all accounts, it was meant to be terrible.
So I have not that much affinity with this brand. However, I do love the whole kind of retro analog tech vibe that they go for in it. I think that the whole design and vibe that they bring forward is fun, but they're going to have to do something really, really, really clever with this to satisfy me or even capture my attention, because...
Do you know what? It's by no mean a marker of quality, but anything that Paul Rudd's involved with, I'm at least interested in. I'll give it a chance because I really like Paul Rudd. He's
incredibly
Hollywood nice guy. It's kind of like that thing with Keanu Reeves. If he's in something, you're kind of like, oh, I'll give it a shot.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Did you give him the benefit of the doubt in that one where he was that hippie with fucking Jennifer Aniston and just that terrible looking rom-com? Did you?
What are you talking about?
Did you? Yeah, that's right. You didn't give him the benefit of the doubt.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Me neither. But yeah, I mean, like, we got Finn Wolfhard in this one. It's like a new cast of kids, right?
Yeah, it's kids, and then they're going to have some of
Things.
the returning cast. None, like, I think they're just sweeping the female remake under the rug.
I think that this is going to be one for the fans, and they'll struggle to bring in a story that is satisfying to others. I feel
it's always that line that you walk, right? It's kind of, do we appease the current fans? Do the fans actually know what they want?
I don't think that.
I always think that's the tough thing, right? Like, I think there's a lot of examples of, you know, you're kind of doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. If you don't do what the fans want, then, you know, they're going to complain that it wasn't what they wanted. But at the same time, often I find that fans, myself included, don't actually know what they're going to enjoy.
On paper, you assume, oh, that's not going to be a great idea, but in execution,
might be great.
Exactly.
Or vice versa.
You know, even Miles Morales, like, oh, Spider-Man animated movie with Miles Morales. I don't know. In execution, though, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm gonna leave it on that one. They've got a challenge ahead of them, right?
I just couldn't, like, I can't give that much of a fuck. I feel like this is Benny's territory. I feel like in this moment I would say, take it away, Ben. You know,
we need him.
I'm not excited for this whatsoever, and I hope the trailer shows me some glimmer of interest or intrigue, because I can just imagine we're just going to get, you know, fade in a little scene, kids walking along in a forest.
And then they meet Bill Murray, and you're like, whoa, Bill Murray. And then, like, half the audience is like,
Music
what?
swells,
Yeah.
and there's Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
I'm back. No, well,
I hope
really,
they don't do that.
They can't. They can't do that. Their careers would be over.
I think they are in it.
What's that time?
It's trailer time.
Hell's yeah.
And now we will
Oh.
continue on with our perfectly natural conversation, continuing on from our previous points.
Natural.
Yes.
Authentic.
Trailer time. It's now trailer time. So what definitely didn't happen was we definitely didn't finish recording, and then
You definitely didn't say motherfucker.
I definitely didn't look at my phone and see an email about that the new Black Widow trailer has dropped. As like the very second we stopped recording.
We stop and you're like, motherfucker. And I was like, what happened, man?
So, and we're like, you know what? We're technological wizards. We can just splice in us talking about the trailer in the middle of it. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah. So if this seems out of place, it's not.
It's our first look at Black Widow, April 2020.
April 2020?
First MCU film we're getting next year.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
This was front-ended with a lot of footage from, particularly, it looked like Age of Ultron.
Well, I mean, that was the movie that really dealt with her past.
Yeah. The flashback sequences.
Yeah.
A lot in the sort of Russian ballet.
Yeah, and which was, oddly enough, studio. I thought it was, on some level, a bit of a bold choice because that was a movie that garnered a little bit of controversy specifically for that. But I like that they're accepting, you know, this is the story that we've told. Just fucking deal with it. And they're moving on with it. So I think that's really cool.
And then we get a very, very good taste of this film. I thought they maybe even showed a little bit too much.
Potentially.
Like that's not a first trailer.
That's a teaser trailer, right? That's not even a first trailer. That's a teaser trailer.
Like they show a lot of stuff. I think they maybe should have been a bit more reserved because I liked the hand-to-hand combat scene with her sister or former comrade. You know, there's I like that more sort of like it seemed like the cinematography looked really beautiful and they were going for a bit more of a stripped back look.
Crisp.
And then there's a somersault and she's in this white suit and I'm like, the CG comes in spades.
Hard, yeah. So, I mean, I was so on board with the only part of this trailer that I was not on board with was them falling from the sky and like that action scene. I was like, oh,
why is that coming back? It happened in Terminator a couple months ago. Like, why is the whole skydiving thing? Like, it's done.
I don't know. It's
call it a day.
It's not a good look. As far as I'm concerned.
Especially do it the Michael Bay way, do it in camera. You know, this whole CG.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, it looks awful to me.
But I will forgive all of that simply for David Harbour.
He's fantastic.
Oh.
He's hilarious.
Fucking how fantastic.
What an awesome character, number one.
Yeah.
Like the sort of Russian Captain America, Captain Russia. A novel name.
Look, I'm loving the costumes in this. His included. But I love the fact that this looks like it's going to have, I mean, it's Marvel, so it's going to have comedic elements to it. But David Harbour really seems like he's leaning into that.
And like the you've got fat joke, you know, you already can see the group dynamics forming.
Yeah.
I'm totally on board with this character.
Yeah. So do we have confirmation as to when this is set?
I'm pretty sure this is set after the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I think that was the report. I think it must have been about 4 months ago that we talked about it. I'm 90% sure that's correct.
See, I'm getting, because I know that there's another kind of origin or older film, which is what's the DC one with it's the Wonder Woman 19 something or other.
Yeah, the upcoming Wonder Woman.
Sorry?
The upcoming Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
film.
yeah. So that I was trying to figure out like how much of am I remembering about that film? How much am I remembering about like the one that's set before for Black Widow? I'm looking for it. Give me a second. Does it feel like really soon as well? Like April 2020. It's like it's around the corner.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a big film next year.
Do you reckon this is going to be one that? But
I've enjoyed the break. I've enjoyed the break.
So have I. Okay, give me a second. Set after the events of Captain America: Civil War, the film sees Romanoff on the run and forced to confront her past. Okay, cool.
Right, Civil War. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing is, you know, getting these characters sandwiched in here. We never see him again in the future.
Feels a little bit.
And it's fine. It's not the biggest deal, but it just feels like a little bit Lucasfilm, a little bit unplanned, a little bit you should have done it. You should have done it in 2014 or something.
100%. This is definitely a Phase 1 film. Because, since she has, since she's come on to the Marvel spectrum, it's been a bit like everyone has wanted this film. And I don't know why they didn't do it back then and they've only decided now to do it. Because I felt like the want was there.
Me too.
And it feels a bit too late now. It feels almost non-consequential.
Yep.
But having said that, I still love the look of this film. I'm very excited for this film.
I think there's enough here. I just hope they don't overstretch it. Like what Black Widow on its own, like that was supposed to be the sort of hand-to-hand combat, the secret agent,
I think this is
the
their
ninja
opportunity to do
assassin.
that, though, right? I think
But
this is their opportunity to not have her be compared to superheroes.
But I don't feel like they're going down that path. This looked like
with her flying through the sky and that. Yeah, no, look, I agree. And again, I think I can almost guarantee that is going to be a scene that I do not enjoy.
That's my concern.
But I hope that that's a small part of it.
Me too. And should we get into the Nexus?
Yes,
trailer?
And now on to our completely smooth transition to the next thing that we will be listening to.
Trailer.
Sweet, we've a quick one. We've only got two. First of which is Ip Man 4. This will be irrelevant to I think most of the people listening to this, but I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Ip Man. I remember watching the first one. God, it'd have to be at least 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 09, wasn't it?
Yeah, and thinking like I've always been a big fan of that style of cinema, the
2008.
martial arts, the Chinese, kind of action wire film. This isn't quite. It certainly does have aspects of wire fu in it, but I always thought that Donnie Yen was such a spectacular guy to play Ip Man, and a lot of those scenes are really spectacular. The subsequent ones were fine, but otherwise
Delivered on choreography.
They always do.
And martial arts.
They always do.
But and you said it right. It's wire fu, but it's done with restraint. It's not that full crazy,
it's not hero
really
or
stylized. It's held with a little restraint, but
So
the story kind of diminishing returns as you go through the sequels.
The original story wasn't even that.
I like the
great.
original story. It's kind of got that whole sort of Seven Samurai
a little bit, yeah.
Save the village and
No.
it's kind of got a classic archetypal story to it, and then the next one's I don't know. It just
it was a little bit more commercial. Like you could tell that they were.
I just want to see the kicks and the craziness.
And
zany. Sorry about that.
So no. This one is it looks in that same vein. It looks as though it's not taking itself too seriously, which is good. It has that I guess trope that that every Ip Man or every kind of like Chinese film of that style has, which is you have the big bad American guy come in and talk about how your Chinese kung fu is no match for my American hubris. Which is like, it is a trope, and it's kind of funny to watch, particularly from our perspective. I feel like it's
so much that the American takes out every other nation in the content that we consume, and when you see it in the other way around, and it's like, whoa.
And I feel like it's the kind
refreshing.
Of trope.
It's refreshing.
It's refreshing, but it's also the kind of trope that I think Hollywood has been trying to get away from. It's like the really stereotypical evil, Arab or something, or the evil Russian that is that must be such a ridiculous thing to see when you're in Russia. Be like, how has our like entire people been like summed up in this like
into this
monologue making one-eyed scarred motherfucker?
Yeah. It's funny to think about it, but it's we've been so conditioned over years and years of these movies.
So I do kind of like seeing it the opposite way around, because you're like, yeah, we like that you know, that happens all the time. Again, it's Hollywood's trying to move away from that, and that's a little bit more of a like 90s, early 2000s villain type thing, but I think it's still funny.
Yeah, I can't say I'm that excited for this. I didn't think the trailers were that successful. But, just purely on the martial arts aspect, there's going to be spectacle to this that will be enjoyable. So if you're in any kind of martial arts, you already know about Ip Man, and then why the fuck am I talking right now?
And I just like the fact that kind of style of movie has broken through the kind of like, that seems to be one of the most widely known franchises like that. And I just enjoy it when like a different kind of film breaks the barrier and
exactly.
Won't have wide success, but I do like it when it has enough success to be noticed.
Yep. We only got one more trailer this
Only
week.
one more trailer, which is Just Mercy, which is
what was this one?
Fuck, I've blanked. It's the prison wrongly accused down in Alabama.
Oh, with Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. Jamie Foxx, I don't know whether they made him more aged or like.
I think they did.
They must have. Yeah, he looks a lot older in this than he usually does.
There's this sound design aspect to this trailer with the cups
it's
against the grates.
Isn't it?
That was very, very, very well done.
Yeah.
And I think not something that you always see in a trailer. So I wonder if that's going to become part of the film.
I think it'd be really cool if it was. I don't know that I'm holding my breath.
It's very effective if it is.
This movie feels a little paint by numbers, which again, like, it's not a bad thing.
So the sort of concept here is that Michael B. Jordan is this young lawyer who feels that it's his duty to help Jamie Foxx get acquitted of these wrongly accused, allegations, whatever you'd call them.
Yep.
And it looks like he will go hell for leather to do what he can to help this community and this family.
Yeah.
And there looks to be some there's some interesting elements at play here that I think will hopefully translate into the final film, because I'm quite intrigued here.
I love how much Michael B. Jordan is working. I love that he's putting out a lot of content, because I think that he is one of the better actors of his generation.
I completely agree.
I've loved him in most everything that he's been in.
And devilishly handsome as well. Shoot.
That was, yep.
He just seems to have it all, man. He's picking good roles. He's got
a production company as well.
He seems like a smart guy.
Yeah.
I like it.
There's a couple of people that seem to be kind of crushing it in that aspect. The other one that jumps to mind is, what's the Australian woman's name? Margot Robbie.
Yes.
She seems to be really like in that same kind of like young, really hardworking, has her own production company, is getting involved in a lot of these projects. So yeah, I'm always kind of really impressed by those kind of people.
Yeah, me too. Inspiring.
So for this, I'm on board with basically it's the actors that are bringing me to the table on this one. I've always really enjoyed Jamie Foxx. I really like Michael B. Jordan. If I watch this, it'll be for them.
Yeah. As you said, a little bit stock standard. Lawyer, you've seen it all before, but hopefully there's a few new ingredients here that differentiate it. Let's go for question of the week, guys. We love hearing from you. So hit us up in the comments on YouTube, or send us a message on Facebook or Instagram. As I said, we love hearing from you guys. Anthony DeRiso, our boy, hit us up with a question this week. Do you guys think it's possible the Mandalorian was saved by either Yoda or possibly Obi-Wan from the battle droid when he was a child, explaining why he has such a connection with the child? So, guys, if you haven't watched episode 2 and beyond in Mandalorian, probably bail at this stage. Thanks for sticking around. But I'd probably say if you're listening to this podcast, you are watching The Mandalorian. That's an interesting idea. Like my initial thoughts with why he has such a attachment with the kid, Baby Yoda, is that Baby Yoda is essentially quote unquote a foundling. He was a foundling, orphaned, abandoned, and he sees a parallel within their experience.
I hope that's it, because that's what I got out of it. I really don't hope that it's something that
sort of one-to-one.
Yeah, optical. Like it's just like, oh, you look like someone that saved me, therefore I'm gonna save you.
Yeah.
That to me would be very disappointing, really. I think it would take something away from the character.
It's a little too one-to-one, and it doesn't have the emotional resonance.
And it's something that the Star Wars franchise has so far been very guilty of, which is like this kind of playing on the nostalgia of, and like all these weird connections that are it's just kind of like, all right, not every character in the original trilogy and the new trilogy and the prequels has to be related or has to be like
turn up.
It's just not necessary.
I think we spoke about this episode 6 of Watchmen. I think that is some of the best retconning you'll see. You know, or even referencing back the whole series, referencing back to things. You know, you could call it quote unquote nostalgia, but I think it's like turning it on its head and adding to. It's adding to.
I think that's very different. That's following a very linear storyline.
I'm thinking very much so about the Force Awakens and that bit where Finn gets the little laser.
Yeah,
that Luke is training to. You know, with his
and
lightsaber.
Looks at it and he's like, oh.
And that for me is just not...
There's no purpose
within
to
that
right?
first instance, Star Wars never being back. You know, it hasn't been around for 10 years. That's a great moment. 5 years later, that's not a very great moment.
Yeah, like rewatching it, you're kind of like, right, I don't need that.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that I love feeling like these worlds are lived in, but I don't like it being shoved into my face. And, you know, like I said, that's always been something like, you know, Anakin actually made C-3PO. Isn't that a fun little connection? It's like, fuck, that's not necessary.
Does that add?
Yeah, like why is that? Like the only reason you've done that is so you can have C-3PO in the prequels. And what does that actually add to the story?
He should have never been there.
Shouldn't have been. Neither should have C-3PO.
R2-D2.
Oh, sorry. That's just repeating myself.
Just like, fuck,
oh God,
really
Connor's having
C-3PO. I get it, bro.
Connor's having a stroke.
Get your fucking ass out of here.
So I.
What about Obi-Wan? Is there potential that we get tie-ins across these Disney Plus series, or do you want them kind of stick to their lane?
I want it to be separate. I do. I just think that let this be a nice story. Right? Just let it be.
Just be a nice story. You listen to Disney?
Yeah.
Let this be a nice fucking story.
I think that this movie or this series so far has been such a
let's put that on a
wonderful little like just exploration of the universe, right? And it's not relying on, you know, these really kind of nostalgic moments. And that's something that I always thought that Rogue One did really well and really poorly at the same time. There were parts of that film where I'm like, I love that I'm finding out more about this universe. Like the old planet where they mined, what are they, Kyber crystals?
The Kyber crystals?
Kyber crystals, yeah. I was like, fuck, I'm so interested in that. I love that there's this old mythos and like that big statue of the Jedi that's in the sand. Like, I love that shit. I eat it up. And then they show me fucking R2-D2 in a hangar. And I'm like, fuck you forever, because that's so unacceptable.
But R2 would have been there, Connor. He would have been there at that precise point in time.
Exactly,
it all matches up in the canon,
and it also makes this universe, which is huge, feel small and not in a good way.
Tiny,
right?
We're bumping into the same people.
Yeah,
turn a corner, you know, go 3 planets along. Oh,
Lando!
Whoa!
Didn't expect you to see you here. Like, what's going on, buddy?
Shit, bro.
It doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel...
I mean, if you're thinking about in terms of like Solo, all right, Han Solo and Chewbacca need to become friends at some point. And if they're going to chuck that in the film, at least there's a reason why they're doing it. Yes, it's very heavy on the nostalgia, but also you do need to explain how they know each other. Fine, done. Same thing with Lando and that. But just randomly having like the two characters that are like, I'm wanted on 13 systems on, passing by a lane. You're
That's horrible.
That's not necessary. There's no reason to do
horrible.
that other than to have the audience go, oh, look, it's that guy. And that's such a pathetic.
It made me so angry.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
We were talking about Obi-Wan
Anyways,
and like
yeah.
Disney Plus. And we basically want
Connection and all.
Mandalorian stay, each one has its own flavor.
Yeah.
It's like ice cream in an ice cream parlor. You can get mint choc chip, you can get vanilla, you can get strawberry. They're all separate from each other.
Hell yes. I'm so on board with that.
And I think The Mandalorian is doing so successfully what I've wanted with Star Wars is like it's expanding the universe.
Exactly. And actually expanding it.
I think that's a pretty good time to move on to the Mandalorian review.
Our Mandalorian review.
Episode 4. It's going to be full spoilers, guys. So if you haven't watched the Mandalorian episode 4, leave.
Get on out of here. So, this was a massive change of pace.
Huge. From the tech to the feel to the storyline.
I'm not 100% sure that I enjoyed this episode as much as I have previously enjoyed the episodes.
I've only watched this episode once, and I've watched every other one 2 to 3 times.
Yeah.
I think that says something.
I think it does.
But I did thoroughly enjoy this. On a number of levels.
Enjoyed parts of it. There were other parts that were painful. For me, the relationship between the village woman and the Mandalorian was pretty cringeworthy.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
It was it felt very forced.
She's just like staring at him, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly. It certainly didn't feel earned. Like none of the character development in this felt as though it was earned.
And it's interesting that, I didn't love that. I didn't love that.
And that to me is a bit disappointing, right?
But that was only a small component of it, I felt.
Yeah, I just
It's got
everything
a pass.
everything with like the village aspect of it was just.
You didn't like the farm droid. I loved that. You know what was so interesting? It was like it reminded me so much of episode 1 where it just was kind of stripped back. And you had little bits of tech sprinkled within there, but it was essentially a medieval farm.
I loved that. I always loved the combination of like high tech with low tech. I'm like, how can you be poor if you have droids? And they're like, oh, this is how. And I really loved pretty much everything on the lead up to
the battle.
No, actually, I quite enjoyed the battle.
Me too.
I loved the ATST
with the red.
Yeah, the red eyes. I thought that was so cool.
That really gave it a distinct flavor. Almost felt like Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah,
Jurassic Park.
And I think I've noticed, just on different forums, some Star Wars fans being like, oh, like that, it didn't really work for them. And I was like, fuck you kidding me? Like visually, that was awesome.
It was horror.
Yeah. And really effective at that.
Oh, agreed.
So I was a fan of that. I was a fan of the battle. But again, the after thing where it's like, let me take off your helmet and, why don't you settle down with us? It's like, none of this feels earned. If this was happening at the end of an entire series where he was helping protect this village, fine. You get to have that kind of emotional payoff. But none of this, in terms of the story has been, makes sense.
I completely agree. But I thought everything else in the episode was very successful. And I loved the sort of parallels, the sort of Kurosawa, Seven Samurai, the coming to save the village and coming up with this
Mandalorian
plan.
with no name.
The plan to take them down. It was very, very satisfying. And I as I said, I just loved the tech. I think the lack of tech, maybe I should say. The Mandalorian, what it's doing so well is it's opening up this world. And I felt like episode 1, 2, and 3 had quite a linear feel. They went back to that town a bunch of times.
1, 2, 3 kind of feel like
It's a little arc almost.
Yeah, that's like it almost feels like you could have that as one episode, one very long episode.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And then this one is so it's a completely different vibe setting. I think that's thrown a few people off, but I just love it, and it's got that wacky, wild, crazy Star Wars kind of like vibe, the original trilogy vibe. That it's just working so well for me. But that I 100% agree with you. That is a weak point of the episode.
Yeah,
the relationship with the
I
girl.
love Gina. What's her name?
Yeah, the
UFC star. Yeah, Carello, Gina Carello. She was in Carano. She was in what's that Ryan Reynolds film? Good Lord.
Oh, there's so many.
Deadpool.
Deadpool 2.
Yeah. 1.
She in Deadpool 1?
Yeah.
Is she part of the squad?
No, Deadpool. She was the really strong chick.
Oh, cool. Yes.
Yeah. So I think she's.
I liked her backstory.
So did I.
Shock trooper.
Yeah. I loved the fight scene between them.
Mm.
I thought that was well choreographed.
Yep.
Looked good. I loved the kind of the interaction. I loved her gruff sense of humor. I would really like to see her maintain some kind of role in this. I don't hold high hopes for that though. I think this might just be the only episode she's in.
Could be correct.
Particularly when you look at the marketing material, because it shows the Mandalorian with the droid and her, and the droid was in it for like 40 seconds, and she was in it for an episode, and you're kind of like, all right.
Yeah, I think decisions need to be made.
I love the idea of him killing off that droid though, because it is in it's so heavy in the marketing material that I imagine that someone that approaches this is going to kind of go through it. Is like, oh, that droid will be here. Like they're going to team up now, and they're going to like go on, and like, nope, fucking
see ya. What so in terms of your feeling about Mandalorian right now, you've had 3 big for me 4 big ticks. I think there is something to be said, the fact that I didn't go back for episode 4 for a second viewing, but maybe I will this week.
This is something that I don't think deserves to be released week by week. I think that you really need to like.
I love it.
I don't think that the episodes justify it, right? Like, I don't think that there's enough of a payoff per episode.
If you're going to compare it to Watchmen, I'd agree with that. I'd say Watchmen justifies the week.
But that's
to
the thing,
week.
right? There's very few episodes now that I think are good enough to justify a weekly release. Like for me, it has to be on a high, like quite a spectacular level.
To go week to week?
To go week to week. To justify that. For me to think that that's worth it. And so far, I'm not really feeling that with The Mandalorian. I don't know that they have the level of quality that would, like I said, just justify it.
I'm loving it. I'm in completely
as a weekly release.
Love it. I can't get enough of it, man. I'm glad I'm not binging it in one go. I'm glad I'm stretching this experience out over weeks. Talking with some of my old Star Wars buddies, You
don't have any other Star Wars buddies. What are you talking about?
You're not a Star Wars buddy, man.
That's fucking rude.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, man. We're talking about The Mandalorian on our podcast. Fuck. Come on, dude. Wake up to yourself.
Hurt me.
Wake up to yourself. Anything else you said about Mandalorian?
No. I'm quietly concerned.
Okay.
I've gotten to that point where I'm like, this could go either way from here.
Interesting.
Yep.
No, I think we're in for a treat. Now, Watchmen, episode 7. Guys, again, spoilers, but holy shit, man. I keep saying to myself, this is the best episode. And I do think episode 6 is probably still my favorite episode, but in terms of like mic drops, this one, episode 7, came through with the goods, man.
I gotta be honest. Like
I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away.
The more I watch this, the more I really hope they make a season 2.
I was thought exactly the same thing.
Because there's no way that I think that this can like cleanly finish all these different lines. Like I don't know how that would work.
I think he's going to, bro.
I know.
So
It's like just the one that really gets me is Adrian Veidt. I want Adrian Veidt to be relevant to the story in a significant way.
I can't wait to see how that all wraps up. I hope
It's
it's satisfying.
it's definitely Lady True's father, right?
Well, I think so, and I think there's like, he's in the golden statue. Sorry, the golden statue.
Yeah.
I
You
feel
reckon
like
he's in that?
I feel like I don't know. There was
know
that cut.
what?
There was cut.
There
It
was
was
that
exactly
cut.
his face, and I was like,
okay, you know what? I
and
reckon
he's,
you're right.
And there's a 365 time jumps, and it's confirmed fully in this episode because the court proceedings been going for 365 days since the last episode where he tried to escape.
Fucking well done, George. That's what it is.
I think there could be. When they did that cut, I was like, oh shit. But how does that tie in? What's the significance behind that? That's the interesting part of it.
So, if we were to make a guess, Ozymandias is the father of Lady True. Her mother is some old broad. She's going to unleash her father.
Like, this is her grand plan, you're speculating?
Yeah, God, there's a lot of threads to think through on this one.
Isn't there's something to... okay, so what's the watch? Or the watchtower? And what's the big structure she's going to launch?
The clock.
They're on the cusp of launching it.
I don't know.
Okay, hold up. There's so many things going on with this episode. The one aspect of this that's the big reveal is the Cyclops?
Dr. Manhattan?
The Cyclops? What are they called?
Oh, Cavalry.
Yeah.
Or the Cyclops.
The Cyclops. Yeah. Why was I tripping out on that? Their grand plan is to basically
capture and kill Dr. Manhattan.
By becoming Dr. Manhattan.
No, I thought the way that they phrased it was capture, kill, and then they become Dr. Manhattan.
Okay, right. I thought they were going to create a Dr. Manhattan and then kind of take him down.
I suppose potentially. I don't know.
So they're trying to sort of become the next, superior being, as it were. Is that what you got there?
Yeah.
So that was a huge reveal.
I mean, this entire thing's giving me mind fucks because obviously, Angela Abar has been holding on to one of the biggest secrets, which is that her husband is
Dr. Manhattan.
Fucking Dr. Manhattan.
Which is an insane reveal.
That is an insane reveal.
But she knew.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like
I felt like there was like some memory dissonance there or something.
No, so she mentioned that Cal had amnesia.
Yes.
And that very rare is it that that amnesia happens like where there's just you do not remember anything before a certain point. And she makes a point of that, which doesn't seem relevant when she says it, but later on is very relevant. Because when she said, "Oh, you didn't ask who," I was like, "Oh, are they suggesting that Cal is Dr. Manhattan?" And that threw me because I was like, "That there's so many reasons that doesn't make sense." But he's the only person that it makes sense for.
Yeah, there's no real other character in this.
There's no other candidate. The only other thing that I was thinking that might happen is, and this would be properly bizarre, is if Angela herself was Dr. Manhattan.
Okay.
And when she was talking to Cal, I was like, all right, I'm 99% sure that it's Cal. But if they really wanted to throw a spanner into the works, maybe it's Angela. And then poor Cal.
That was brutal.
And sleeping with
Dr.
Manhattan.
And then just as it was happening, I thought to myself, oh my God, has she made a mistake?
Yeah, that dawned on me as well. I thought that
was so well timed.
Yeah.
Whatever that was, I think it was just holding onto the angle and the sound effects. Like I've been watching this whole show on my headphones, and I pulled off the headphones. Like it was so visceral and bludgeoning.
You could hear the hammer sticking in his head, and you're like, "Oh fuck, they're really going for that."
And I thought, "Oh my god, she's fucking killed him, and she's made a mistake, and something's." And then she pulls out the symbol.
What an awesome shot to have just the blue reflection. Something interesting in the Vietnam scene, where Dr. Manhattan was, doing his thing. Did Dr. Manhattan look fat to you?
Oh, like you mean when you have the aerial shot?
Yeah.
On the TV?
Yeah.
No, did he look fat to you?
He looked fat to me, and I was like, because it's such a stunning image in the movie of Dr. Manhattan, who's just fucking ripped, going through Vietnam and just exploding people, and this kind of seemed a bit.
I have to rewatch that. I
didn't quite live up to the what the movie was. I think it might have just been a reenactment, though. There's always that.
Well, it was also like news footage. It was sort of
old news footage.
Whilst the Zack Snyder one was sort of replicating the comics, had that whole slow mo, vista aspect to it.
Yeah.
Also interesting to see a bit more of a window into life in Vietnam as the 52nd state of the USA.
Yeah,
I
think that's
design
cool.
was interesting as well.
Yeah.
And you could see the unrest within that city. Very, very interesting, and I thought the mechanism of continuing on the flashback from episode 6, but not the whole way through, and intertwining it with Angela's memories as well. It continued to develop the character and the relationship with Will, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
From what you learn about Angela, and
it also throws into doubt a lot of the things that Angela has said. Like she's obviously been lying to, I guess, the audience and the characters the entire time. So you're like, so how much of what she has said? Because when she said, "Oh, me and Cal came over here. Why'd you pick Tulsa?" Oh, just randomly. But she knew she was from Tulsa, which is the first time you find that out. And that she knew her grandmother. Like just so many things that like she's been lying, and like you're just like, how reliable is what she's thought or said so far? So
what do you think's happened with Dr. Manhattan? Like he went to Mars.
I think he imprisoned Adrian Veidt, and then I have a feeling that he wanted to experience life as a man again, and this was the only way to do that. I don't know how he got into relationship with Angela Abar. And
is he conscious that he's not conscious that he's Dr. Manhattan?
No.
Like he's kind of switched off his brain.
Yeah.
And sort of like he'd seen the universe end to end, and the experience of being
and he wanted
a man.
The confines of a human brain or something like that. Yeah.
Well, there's some beauty in the simplicity. I like that notion. But is Dr. Manhattan, like he's gone? Like in terms of, what's going to happen with this symbol and.
But he's back.
What do you mean?
Well, he's back. You see him.
What do you mean?
Did you? So the last scene, you can see in her glasses.
Oh yeah.
Dr. Manhattan is back.
So he's okay, right? So he's going to materialize. I mean, like.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's not. He's like when you say that, he's not like on screen. He's like in the reflection.
Yeah. You can tell it's Dr. Manhattan, and
right.
you can tell the other thing is like she just
I don't quite remember that.
She addresses him and saying, "We've got a big fucking problem."
Yes.
As in like, welcome back. We need you.
Fascinating.
I would not have picked that in terms of how they were going to bring Dr. Manhattan into this. In my head this entire time, I just had this image of him either appearing or like coming down from the stars, or like it was such an obvious.
But to be right there in front of your eyes.
The other thing was, and I mentioned this the other day when we reviewed episode like 2 or 3, when you saw something blue fall into a field, and she was like, when she bought the property. When Lady True bought the property, and then it fades into an overshot of Tulsa.
Yes.
I figured that was like 50 years later or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Whereas you guys, because Lady True looked the same and all that, thought it was the same timeline. The more I think about it, the more I do think that was like 50 years ago.
I think that could be.
I think that's pre-clock, pre-everything.
I think that could be pre. I think that's pre that whole thing being made. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that.
I think that could even be Adrian Veidt in that.
Ooh, yeah.
You know,
He was blue though.
it was, but I wonder if that was just atmosphere. You know, was that just?
Yeah.
Because I
I love this TV show.
Did she? And then he was in that, and then he becomes the golden statue. You know, and she bought the property because she knew he was going to be there at that time. There's something to do. You know what I think there is? There's something to do with time and like, you know,
because she's building a big clock.
There's something like, can she go back and see like,
I don't know.
you know, because in this, with so much about revisiting the past, and of course that's part of Watchmen and stuff, but this whole clock thing, like, how did she know to be there at that time for that thing, and why did she need that at that time? Like, there's something, I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see how they go. About
honestly,
that.
I'm so fascinated by this TV show and how it is just bringing things together that you just would not have seen.
And there's a lot of variety in this show. Like each episode, whilst it has a very sort of a homogenous tone, each episode is very distinct from the last.
Yeah.
And I can kind of remember them one by one. You know, episode 5, Looking Glass. You know, it was distinctly his episode. Now, episode 3, that was Laurie's episode. And, you know, we only got introduced to Laurie in episode 3. You know, that was only like 5 episodes ago.
If it doesn't, like... See, this is... When we were talking about The Mandalorian, this is what I mean. Like, this feels like a show that is worth tuning into every week because you get something... Like, there is something really genuinely valuable every week. You can watch any of these episodes as its own thing, and there's value there. Whereas, like, The Mandalorian doesn't quite feel as... It doesn't feel the same way. It doesn't feel like it.
They're different shows.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying them in their own respective
Yeah,
fields.
definitely.
Any final thoughts on episode 7? Only 2 more episodes.
Oh, man, that's just... No, that's... Yeah, I'm just impressed.
Man, we're going to have to think about timelines for when episodes 8 and 9 come out and us getting our reviews out and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-oh.
It's getting that time of year. Anyway, folks, what did you think of Watchmen episode 7? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and go check out our review of The Irishman and Knives Out. We'll be back next week.
See ya.
Just you and me again, bro.
Just you and me.
Benny will be on the boat still. Peace.
Catch ya.